let's get right into it, man. This is obviously, you can tell it's such a like professional production. Like, let's get right into this motherfucker.
Well, you gotta let the people what they're listening to, Adam. Gosh,
you're listening to that now. Last week we opened the podcast. We did not have a name, right? Like, it's something we had been discussing. We had gone back and forth. We had some hot topic fucking names. We hadn't really decided, but we came up with, we are the Out of Bounds podcast with Adam and Josh, and you can see our logo here on the video. You got the little state of Ohio there in the O of, and you got a nice little football microphone with some headphones on that thing, dude.
Yep. Now your woman made that logo. Your woman made the logo.
My wife made that. She did.
So goddamn impressive.
Sure did.
I know. Justine doesn't make anything for me.
Now I got it. Okay, tell the people who aren't watching live what you're wearing right now.
My fur vest, dude. It's our podcast. So I just got out of the gym, right? So I didn't want to dirty up a clean shirt. So but I'm a little chilly. So I just got the vest. My arms don't get chilly though because they're hairy. So I just put and I'm too fat to close the vest, so they just covers my nipples. Just some chest hair. Right. The nipples are covered up. And then I got Joey B as my background crying.
I see that. I'm only a little upset by it.
I'm gonna change it. It's in bad taste, first of all, and it keeps glitching out. No. It keeps glitching out, and it's gonna give me a seizure, bro.
Now that'd be something for the listeners to really experience.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, a seizure takes you to the next level, bro.
Yeah. All right, man. Let's get right into it. Obviously, the Bengals lost the Super Bowl 23-20. You and I went back and forth last week. I want to say that if you bet on the Rams, you did lose money. They did not cover.
Yes, that's correct.
So tell me, just off the top of your head. I mean, obviously, let's dive into it a little bit. Like, what are your like high level thoughts of the game?
Well, I was wrong. I was wrong about pretty much everything I said last week. If you're talking about the Rams won, right? I said the Rams were going to win. I said it was going to be uphill battle for the Bengals, but so I wasn't wrong, but I was definitely not as right as I thought I was going to be. The Bengals look great. The Bengals stopped the run. I think the Rams had less than 40 yards rushing. That was something that the Bengals sucked at all season long. They came out 5 wide. I was bashing Zach Taylor for not being experimental, and I thought he was going to run out on first and second down. They came out 5 wide the very first play. The defense played very well. Von Bell played very well. Sam Hubbard played very well. The defensive line played very well.
Jesse Bates. Jesse Bates was the highest graded PFF player for the Bengals in the Super Bowl.
He's always good though. Jesse Bates is basically a fringe all-pro player, and I expect him to be that way for a pretty long time, so that's not surprising. Sam Hubbard's good too. I'm not just highlighting guys I think are bad, but Sam Hubbard does a couple things really well, but he's not Myles Garrett, right? Well, he played really well. He played
He's very solid, right? Yeah, he's very solid. He's not like super he's not like a great pass rusher, right? Like Myles Garrett, but he's effective. He's efficient. He plays the run well. And he can do some unique things as a defensive end. Like obviously the Chiefs game, you saw him sitting there spying the quarterback. He'll drop into coverage in some of those weird situations. So he's kind of like a Swiss Army knife of a defensive end. Just kind of does a lot of things pretty good, right? So, and if you can do that, you can play in the NFL for a long, long time. So I was excited to. Yeah,
he's a long.
So I want to bring this up. So so. This was one of your main arguments last week was the yards per play. The Bengals outgained the Rams yards per play, 5.2 to 4.7. So what is that? What do you think of that?
Like I said, dude, the Bengals. So last week I said I would be surprised if the Bengals are at the top of the AFC North. Do you remember me saying that? For next year, like if that was like my bold prediction for next year, I think I was wrong. The Bengals are good, man. They looked really good. I mean, how many weeks in a row can I sit here and talk shit about the Bengals, right? I mean, this would be the fourth week and third week in a row they've proved me wrong. Really the fourth week because I didn't bet on the Raiders, but that's where I would have leaned. There's Zach Taylor. I can't shit on someone who's winning constantly. at some point I have to kind of self-reflect and figure out what's going on. The Bengals, we talked about their offensive line. Their offensive line sucks. Well, that's a pretty easy, it's not an easy problem to fix, but that's one problem. If you look at the Browns roster or the Ravens roster, there's multiple problems there. Right, the Bengals, they got one thing that they need to address. It's going to be hard to address. I mean, if you look at the free agent pool and the amount of money that the Bengals have, there's not a whole lot of options out there in the free agency. They're going to get someone that's probably going to be fringe upper echelon again, and then you're picking 31st, so you're probably not going to get a day one starter offensive tackle. You're probably looking at either a project offensive tackle or a day one starter at guard, which is probably the route I would take. Try to get as much help that can immediately help as needed, because you can play now. They've proven that they can go to the Super Bowl now. As far as the defense goes, I would continue to add to that defensive line. Is it a pressing issue? I mean, it depends what your definition of pressing is. It's not any. It's less pressing than the Browns' defensive line's issues, because if Jadeveon Clowney ends up walking via free agency, which he might do, they got huge issues. The Bengals aren't looking at that. The Bengals aren't looking at they're at worst going to be the same. It's just a slightly above average defensive line. So I take back a lot of the things I said last week. The Bengals they're going to be here. They're going to be at the top of the pack for a while. Now, him return to the Super Bowl chatter is a little premature, but they're going to be at the top of the pack.
All right, I definitely want to circle back to some of this offensive line discussion and some of the things you're talking about on the defensive line too, because I think there is a need there for the Bengals, but we'll come back to that. And let's talk about all this chatter that you mentioned about. And this is something that I agree with you with, right? And this is something that, like, I think for me is why I was so bummed about the loss, is because you aren't guaranteed to be back here no matter how good you are. You are not guaranteed to get back to the Super Bowl. And I feel like so many people are like, oh, it's just Joe Burrow's, first full year, second year in the league, like, oh, it's guaranteed that he's going to be back in the Super Bowl. And it's not. That's absolutely not true. I mentioned this, I don't know if I mentioned it last week on the pod, but I've been saying it all year, is like, the Bengals have been so fortunate to not have injuries. Like, we have not had any serious injury to any one of our key players all year.
Well, the offensive line,
I'm with you, dude.
Right tackle.
Riley Rife, yeah, that was a big one, but
sorry.
That's really it. Like, none of your key, like, skill guys on either side of the ball were hurt. They were all healthy going into this last game outside of CJ Uzomah, just a little bit, but he did play. He caught a ball or two, so he wasn't. It's not like that hurt them a ton in that game.
Well, he's not.
I agree with you.
Yeah, he's not. Even if you lose Uzomah's very good for what he does for the Bengals, but he's a very plug and play-ish player. It would take one off season to replace Uzomah, right? I mean, exactly. The Browns have 3 tight ends that are better than him. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's not like,
I don't know. We could probably get into that a little bit, but maybe
you got Hooper and Njoku. Really, you wouldn't trade Uzomah for Njoku right now?
No.
Oh, you're wrong. You are 100% wrong. You are 100. I am telling. Njoku's probably Njoku's better than Hooper. Njoku is the goddamn man, dude. Njoku's gonna
catch, dude. He's just been so inconsistent.
His catching. No. His catching was fantastic this year. No, maybe he had 1 or 2 drops. That's it. I think based on a percentage standpoint, he was on fire this season, dude. I can't believe that.
He had a good year.
Slander.
He had a good year.
Fantastic.
Dude, his first 3 years in the league were pretty rough.
Not rough. See, that's not fair. Tight ends are the slowest developing position.
That's true.
Right?
That's very true.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you go from basically never playing the full tight end role to playing tight end in the NFL, and because they just don't utilize it in college. So, and based on a percentage standpoint, the problem with Njoku is that the drops that he had were ugly. It's kind of like Braylon Edwards. Braylon Edwards had great hands, but when he would drop the ball, it was like, dude, what do you do? Like heavy concentration drop. Garrett Wilson was a little like that at Ohio State, obviously not to that level, but a little bit like Braylon Edwards, where he would, if he not this year, but there are highlights of him where the ball's crisp and clean and he drops it, But Njoku was, dude, you better watch out. I'm telling you right now, watch out, because that dude is going to be on a tear next season. But that's plenty.
All right. I'll watch out. So obviously, you brought up a great point on Twitter. In a tweet that went, somewhat viral. I think you had like over 1,000 likes at this point. You said, Dan Marino that's a great example, right? Dan Marino, Aaron Rodgers, these are all great examples of quarterbacks that
you're not gonna.
that everybody thought. Oh, I'm going to. Don't worry. I think what I'm going to try to do is I'll try to stitch. I'm going to like screenshot that. I'm going to try to stitch it in right here as we're talking about it. So like, you're going to be able to see this tweet, right? And then, Josh, making a great point, but he misspells the word thought.
It went viral too. It definitely went viral. I think like Twitter sent me like a text that like 100,000 people have seen it or so. It has over 1,000 likes, and I misspelled the second goddamn word. But I didn't misspell it. The T, I must have fat thumbed
in. Listen. You definitely misspelled the word thought. It just so happened that you misspelled the word, and it happens to be another word in the English dictionary. Yes.
Well, I dropped off the T. It wasn't I think whatever. If I forgot it, if I fat thumbed it, if the T button, it wasn't like I misspelled it completely. It wasn't like, you know what I mean? The word is 90% there, Adam.
It is 90% there.
You son of a bitch.
The greatest thing, like I knew exactly what you were saying though, and so did everybody on Twitter apparently because everybody retweeted it. But
I went to go change it after you said that.
You can't edit.
Yeah, because it's. I was gonna go delete it after you said that. I was like, I'll just retweet it again. But by that time, I had like 500 likes. I was like, shit.
It's over. Yeah, you can't go viral again. But no,
anyway, sorry.
Regardless of your English, which I don't know, how'd you graduate college?
Dude, I forgot the T, you bastard. It's a common mistake.
Yeah. Were you texting it? Is that what you did? Or were you on your phone?
No, I think I tweeted it while I was at work. So I think it was half-assed paying attention.
You were on the laptop.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if I was on my laptop or my phone, but I think that was probably the issue, is that I was trying to do work and tweet at the same time.
I gotcha. Regardless of the grammatical errors, I thought it was a fantastic point that you made, and it's something that I completely agree with. And I want to say, like, I was one of those first retweets, so you're welcome for helping you go viral.
It wasn't really like this earth-shattering. I mean, I've made a bunch of better points on Twitter, Adam. No one gave a shit about. I mean, I reference Creed constantly, and no one gives a
all
shit.
The time. Creed,
but this,
all the hits.
I didn't say anything that was earth-shattering. I mean, right? That's the fact.
No,
Dan Marino, Aaron Rodgers, pick what. I don't give a shit.
It's definitely not earth-shattering. I think the reason why it just hit home with so many people is that it's against the narrative, right? Now, almost everybody and their brother is saying that, don't worry, the Bengals will be back with Burrow. But weird. It's so true. It's so true that that's absolutely not guaranteed, no matter how good you are. No. Because there's factors outside of your control.
Because it's the NFL. Everybody. The problem. The great thing about the NFL is it's the ultimate team sport, right? Okay, but if you're just a casual fan, I hate using that term because it sounds so demeaning. But if you don't understand the nuances of the game of football, then you just think, they got the best quarterback. He's 25 years old. Boom, he'll be back. Tom Brady's retiring. Boom, he'll be back. That's not how it works. It's not like the NBA. You can't just go get LeBron James or Michael Jordan and surround him with 4 dudes who can dribble and then make it. The NFL, a lot of things go right. I mean, a lot of things got to go right. You have to have a good defense. You have to have a good offensive line. We saw it. This was it. This was the ceiling for Cincinnati, and it was above. They went above the ceiling for Cincinnati if they don't repair that offensive line. That's a fact. If that offensive line doesn't get any better, honestly, Burrow's probably not going to last very long. Burrow will probably end his career as an injured dude 4 years from now. Like, you know what I mean? Like, those are the facts, dude. That's how football is.
I thought I saw somewhere that Burrow took 70 sacks this year, which was obviously most in the league. Up there, dude, as far as most all time. It was just an incredible number of sacks he took. And we talked last week about, I think some of those are Burrow's fault, right? Like, he's quarterback sacks is a quarterback stat. Now, obviously, I would say it's not 100% a quarterback stat, but quarterbacks control when they get rid of the football, right? But in Joe Burrow's case in the Super Bowl, like he had absolutely no time.
That's kind of what that's what I was going to get at. We talked about the quarterback. It depends on the situation, right? If you're talking about a quarterback who runs the ball, well, Joe Burrow, I blame him for the sacks against KC because he ran around, right? He ran around. Yeah. There were opportunities to get rid of the ball. The Rams, they were on him, dude. There was nothing he could do. I didn't see a sack where it was like, dude, get rid. I wasn't staring at the TV going, why didn't he get rid of it? And not one time did that happen. I felt like he did a fine job. It was all the offensive line. The offensive line just folded like a napkin.
Yeah, and honestly, it was, the offensive line played good for the first half. They allowed one sack in that first half, and that was that one weird sack where Joe Burrow actually escaped the pocket and Aaron Donald pushed him in the back out of bounds. It was technically behind the line of scrimmage, so that counts as a sack.
Yes.
But he didn't take an actual in the pocket sack until that second half when the Rams defensive line started making that adjustment, and they moved. Basically what they were doing is they would stack one side of the offensive line so that the center could not double back on Donald, or they would do something along those lines, and then they would stunt on the other side of Donald, so that when that center would go to double Donald, now you got the back two guys picking up a stunt, and obviously those guys aren't good enough to do that. So. I credit to the Rams, right? Like they made some great adjustments after they figured out how the Bengals offensive line was going to had planned to game plan to stop those guys.
And the Bengals
didn't have an answer, right?
And the Bengals, they came out on offense and had a really good plan. And we talked about that. We said, okay, we saw Tyler Boyd get the ball quite a bit in the first half, but everything had to be that. Just because we said that's what they got to do to win doesn't mean that the Rams can't adjust to it and stop it. And that's kind of what we saw.
Absolutely.
And
Tyler Bengals, Boyd over 39.5 was my prop lock of the century, and it did hit. So I want to go ahead and say I'm 1-0 prop locks of the century.
I was pretty devastated that I did not have the balls to put money on the Matthew Stafford over rushing yards. We talked about it ever so briefly, and I was like, so it was like 2 yards. I'm like, I don't have the balls. He got 9 yards the second pass. Like, come on. Stupid. Yep. Yeah, but, I mean, it is what it is. The Bengals fans should be very happy. I see a lot of people complaining about the penalties. Oh, they should have won. Logan Wilson got screwed. I disagree with that entirely. I think I saw it looked like he was going to try. It looked like he was trying to kiss him on the nape of the neck before the prom. That's what I saw. Should they have called the flag? Either pick your poison. I didn't see anything that was insane. Maybe the most egregious thing was that you could make an argument that it did look like the Rams offensive line left their stance early at one point in that one play, but I mean the Bengals, we saw T. Higgins throw Jalen Ramsey to the side. So I feel like I don't, people are making a big deal about about referees like they made a difference. And I don't think they did. I think I think Tony Dungy summarized it when he said the problem isn't that they called the penalties. It's the problem that they just started to call. They went 58 minutes without calling a flag. When there was there were reasons too, and then the last 2 minutes they called a bunch of they threw the flag a bunch. All those reasons were still valid, but you can't ignore 58 minutes and then all of a sudden be like, nah, now's my time to shine, guys. And that was the issue. But like I said, I didn't see anything that was game changing. I think there was probably the ending was going to end up the way it was.
I would say so. Obviously, I would agree with you that the T. Higgins touchdown pass was probably some form of offensive, OPI.
Well, he grabbed him by the face mask and flung him around. I mean,
but the thing is, he probably didn't need to do that, right? Yeah, he probably didn't need to do that. No, so I actually saw somebody on Twitter by the letter of the law, that's not offensive pass interference, but it most certainly was a face mask penalty, right?
It was something. I mean,
that's my point. It was something.
I haven't seen
I'm not saying that's a clean play.
I haven't seen that maneuver done since NFL Blitz. Is all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. So I agree with you there. I think that was a penalty on T. Higgins for sure. I agree. At the end of the game, the Eli Apple was pass interference on Cooper Kupp. I agree. The Logan Wilson is the one I have an issue with. I thought Logan Wilson played that as perfectly as you possibly could. And that, I mean, honestly, that's the game to me, because that was third and goal from the 8. So if you don't call that bogus penalty, in my opinion, you're looking at 4th and 8 for the game. All right, and if you look back at that situation in NFL history, that converts 4th and goal from the 8 converts 22% of the time. So you're telling me the Bengals would at that point have a 78% chance to win the Super Bowl. That's my biggest issue.
In your algorithm, how many of those attempts was it Cooper Kupp versus Eli Apple? That's all. That would be my main concern with your algorithm. It doesn't account for Cooper Kupp versus Eli Apple. No, I don't think that's the problem with the Logan Wilson thing. Was it egregious? No. Was it a penalty? I think it's justified. He did have his arm around him. It did. That if you can take a photo and it looks like a man is trying to insert himself into the other man, you could probably call that flag. But was it egregious? No. Like the Eli Apple one, there was when he was holding on to Cooper Kupp's jersey, there was a good 6 inches of jersey off his body, right? It's kind of like the Logan Wilson play was kind of like a holding penalty, right? Every offensive lineman holds. It just depends if you're going to get caught, right?
So I would say this: the Eli Apple penalty affected the play. I don't think Logan Wilson affected that play to where, if he had done something less, that would have been completed, if that makes any sense. Like, I just don't think that Logan Wilson did anything to affect the play.
That's a fair statement. I didn't say I would have been fine either way. All I'm saying is that people, the statistic that you played, like, oh, well, that changed the game. I don't think that's the case either. I don't think it did. The Rams were going to win. I think that, I just think that's
give me 4th and 8 as well as that.
Okay, I'll give you 4th.
Bengals defense had played. Give me 4th and 8 for the Super Bowl.
What was the down and distance when Cooper Kupp made Eli Apple look like a rodeo clown?
Oh, like 1st or 2nd and goal, or is that what you mean? Or do you mean like earlier on that first touchdown that Cooper Kupp had?
Either one, bro. I don't think it was going to matter. Now, is it a guarantee? No, but it's the same. I would say at the percentages of Cooper Kupp when covered by Eli Apple, how many times did he get a touchdown? 73.7. I don't know what the percent, but I'm sure it's high, just as high. If we put those two math equations together, they'd make a baby. Eli Apple he got whipped around like a rodeo clown, bro. Okay, like
Cooper Kupp had how many yards does Cooper Kupp have? 100?
I don't know.
Enough something like that.
MVP.
He had 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, both on Eli Apple.
I'm gonna look it up real quick. He had 92 yards receiving. That's under his prop. That's under his receiving prop. So you can't tell me that Cooper Kupp like just dominated this game. He had 2 touchdowns. Yes, absolutely. He had 2 touchdowns.
I didn't say dominate, but first of all, he did dominate the game. I don't know what you're talking about. He did dominate the game. It was 3rd and dude. It was 4th and 1. It was 4th and 1, and they ran a play that went sideways. Dude, they ran a motion run. My butthole was so clinched because I'm like, well, that's not moment, huh? It's a good play call because Cooper
Sam
Kupp
Hubbard almost made that play too.
Because it wasn't a good play call. It was only a good play call because Cooper he scored 2 touchdowns.
Cooper Kupp had 2,000 yards receiving this year, and he had less than 100.
Dude, he had 2 touchdowns, and that key. It's less about the stats. It's more about the impact he made, right? Plus, once OBJ went down,
it's not like
all of the attention. Once OBJ went down, all of the attention on the defense went to Cooper Kupp. No one was staring at Van Jefferson. No one. Matter of fact, Van Jefferson beat Eli Apple and dropped the goddamn ball pretty early on. You remember that? There's photos of it in the photo library for USA Today. Van Jefferson put the one hand out. It wasn't necessarily his. I don't really want to call it a drop, right? It wasn't the most perfect pass by Matthew Stafford, but OBJ or Cooper Kupp would have caught it. Van Jefferson did not, right? All the focus went on Cooper Kupp.
So
once OBJ went down and that Rams offense was stuttering, I was like, "Ooh, man, the Bengals might have a shot here."
I agree that the OBJ injury hurt the Rams for sure, but I want to just point this out: the Cooper Kupp had less than 92 yards receiving, which is how much he had against the Bengals, only twice this year. So you're looking at 20 games, and only twice has he had less than 92 yards.
So what are you saying?
I'm saying that the Bengals had a great plan for him, and that they held him under expectation.
Okay, they held him under expectation. Okay, so why did they lose?
Because in the second half, we could not move the football. The Bengals they ended the game with 5 straight possessions for a total of 50 yards and 0 scores.
Okay.
Not once in the entire season did the Bengals go 5 straight possessions without scoring the football. So that is absolutely the Rams defense in the second half. What their defensive line was able to do to pressure Joe Burrow is why the Rams won the Super Bowl. And even with all of that, 2 minutes left, the Bengals are winning the Super Bowl. I mean, 2 minutes to go in the fourth quarter, the Bengals are winning the Super Bowl. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know.
I don't know how you could say Cooper Kupp. I know that statistically Cooper Kupp didn't quote unquote reach expectations, but dude, I mean, he got the 4th and 1. He got those 2 touchdowns. He caught that no looker over the middle, that dig route. I just don't know what he wants the dude to do. You know what I mean? Aaron Donald for sure dominated, but it's not like the Bengals the Bengals didn't lose 70-0. You know, the Rams got in the end zone. The Rams moved the ball pretty okay. They scored every drive other than the 2 picks that Stafford threw. You know what I mean? Like,
that can't be true. They punted. For sure they punted.
Yeah, I'm exaggerating, but yeah. My point was they moved the ball. They moved the ball extremely well. Yeah. I mean, if
they
Cooper
had
Kupp
313 yards total on offense.
If Cooper Kupp didn't do anything, why did they give him the ball on 4th and 1? You know what I mean? Like,
I'm not saying he did nothing.
He scored the game-winning touchdown.
What I'm saying is, like, he didn't come out and have a game to where, like, oh my God, like, that was the best game we've ever seen Cooper Kupp play. It was obvious. It was the 3rd worst game he had all year from a yardage.
I think that we got a glass half full situation going on here. See, you see the Bengals as doing really well. Mm-hmm. I see the Bengals as staring at a team that had one goddamn wide receiver left. Huh? The Rams had one goddamn wide receiver left. The OBJ was out. Robert Woods didn't play. Tyler Higbee didn't play. Robert Blanton didn't play. They were down to Bryson Hopkins, the tight end from Purdue. That's who their tight end was. Van Jefferson was the number 2 wide receiver. So I get it. The Bengals, Cooper Kupp didn't have the most statistically pleasing game, but he was the only dude you had to watch for. And he still did, he still did what he did. Well, I don't, does that make sense? Like, who else?
Yeah, that does. That makes a lot of sense.
If he doesn't get those yards, who were you expecting to get those yards? Not to mention the fact that the Rams couldn't run the ball. That's what I took away. If you want to take away a positive for the Bengals, it's that they completely stopped the run. And Cam Akers did not look beat up. There's going to be the narrative is going to be that Cam Akers is injured, and he might be. He might still be beat up. I mean, I would expect him to be, right? He came back too soon, but they still stopped Stoney Michel. They stopped Darrell Henderson. It didn't matter who the Rams had out there. The run defense, that's the positive that I took away, is that, man, the Bengals run defense was out of this world. I don't think the Rams even cracked 40 yards rushing, right? And they ran the ball like 25 times. They tried, dude. They tried.
Yeah.
And the Bengals still
They had 23 carries for 43 yards, so less than 2 yards a carry.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, okay. So they went over 40 yards. I was wrong about that, but that's nothing, dude.
That's still your point. Yeah.
The Rams tried, dude, and everybody going into it said that the Bengals had one of the worst run defenses. I said it last week. The Bengals played great they played great, and I don't think Cooper. I'm not saying Cooper Kupp is a freak. Cooper Kupp's a great wide receiver. I don't think that there's. Like I said, I came away with nothing but positives for the Bengals, because they exceeded my expectations, just like you said. But I think that we're just viewing those expectations and that positivity in different lights. I give it I grade it as like a 5.
Yeah.
You grade it as like a 10. Like, you're happy. You know what I mean? I'm not that stupid.
No, I'm not happy. I'm definitely not happy.
Well, you know what I'm saying? No, it's like
happy. Yeah.
I view it as like,
no, I'm super bummed. Yeah, no, I'm with you. I hear what you're saying. I really do. You make good points, right? I mean, OBJ not being on there is a big deal, and OBJ was very involved early in that game.
He was feasting.
And you can make an argument that the Bengals' game plan on defense was to come in and take away Cooper Kupp, and because of that, OBJ had a better matchup.
And I don't know.
Matt Stafford was exploiting that early in the game.
Yes, 100%. 100%. That's exactly. Yeah, I'm seeing eye to eye with you, and I don't think we're disagreeing. We're not disagreeing. We're just not we agree that what happened was a positive for the Bengals. We're not on the same level as positivity. It's the positivity levels.
Yeah. So back to the offensive line, I saw a stat that like the Bengals offensive line, like and last week you talked about this, like the pass block win rates and all that fun stuff. Like,
like
the
30th
Bengals offensive line, the Bengals offensive line, their pass block win rate this game was like 15%, which was like the third worst all time and definitely the worst performance in Super Bowl history. That the worst performance this year in the entire NFL and all the games that were played this year was the worst offensive line pass blocking performance by a team. And we still, and the Bengals only lost by 3, which is insane, right? Like,
what's funny? Now, see, then maybe this is where we're going to disagree. I thought that the offensive line played much better than I expected. I know that the stats say otherwise, but like you could see Aaron Donald when they had 3, when they were able, now it's sad that you had to use 3 guys to block him, but when 3 guys touched him, there were 6 hands that touched him, you could see he was visibly frustrated. There were moments where he was putting his hands in the air. You know what I mean? Like I didn't see anybody get run over like a freight train. Von Miller, it's not like he destroyed the world. Leonard Floyd only had the most embarrassing play where he basically walked was it Jonah Williams? I can't remember. He walked someone backwards. But other than that, it wasn't a bloodbath like I thought it was going to be. But a lot of that was scheme. A lot of that was like, okay, this is where the double team's going to go. This is where the triple team's going to go. This is where – and like you said, the Rams came out in the second half and started to overload sides. So, that goes to show you too that, the Rams thought, okay, we're just going to go out there and dominate and move forward. Well, and then, they went in half like, well, we're not getting the pass rush that we thought we were going to get. We better mix it up, which I thought was super impressive. Like I said, I'm not a Bengals fan, so I'm not all butthurt about it, but I thought the Bengals looked better than the Rams. I know the Rams won the Super Bowl, but the Bengals, the Rams they're not a dynasty. All those guys are on rental deals. They're all over, Andrew Whitworth is a starting left tackle and he's 40 years old. You know what I mean? That dynasty, that team is not built to last. But the Bengals, you get an offensive line, you get a couple pieces of the offensive line in there. The defensive line the pieces aren't necessary. The defensive line's already very solid, but you get a couple depth pieces in there, maybe a couple specialists in there. This is a devastating team. This is a great team.
Yeah, and the great thing to be optimistic about if you're a Bengals fan is obviously you've got all your skill guys in place, right? You've got Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, Joe Mixon. You've got some good guys on the defensive side. Now, I think you're going to have to get a little bit younger in some of those positions on the defensive side of the ball, but you've got to upgrade at least 3 offensive line positions for next year. So, in my opinion, I think left tackle and center are okay. I think both guards and right tackle you got to have a solution for. Maybe Riley Reiff comes back and he's going to be that solution there at right tackle, but you got to fix the guard position. And the great thing, you mentioned it earlier, the Bengals, they got like $60 million in cap, and they could cut Trey Waynes and get another $15.5 million. So they've got a ton of room if they want to sign some free agents.
So let's look at their offensive line. You got Jonah Williams at left tackle. Jonah Williams is great. We know that he can bump down to guard. We know that you got a versatile piece there that can move around based on what you can sign in free agency. That would be I don't know how likely it is that the Bengals are going to be able to sign a top flight offensive tackle in free agency. I don't think they have enough money. Okay, and they're picking 30. Who I don't even know. I don't even know.
They got the most cap space in the league.
Who are the top offensive tackles in free agency? Are they
Tremont Armstead?
I don't even. Yeah, that's a difference maker if he comes up here.
Yeah. I don't know the free agent market all that great yet, but he's a name that I've already seen on Twitter, Terran Armstead, that people are talking
for
about.
The Bengals.
But who knows? But yeah, of course.
I saw an article recently talking about a couple of free agency offensive linemen, and Connor Williams is a name that popped up from the Cowboys. That seems like a guy that's attainable for the Bengals. You got to remember the Bengals are gonna. They were in the Super Bowl, but the Bengals are gonna have a hard time. Terran Armstead is a badass. If they get him, great. Okay, but first of all, the bonus money is the owner. They may have all the money, but the owner's got to want to spend it. First of all, second of all. You got to cater. You got to try to bring in top flight free agents and say, "Hey, here's where we practice." It's just I don't. There's still a lot. It's still very much an uphill battle for the Bengals to get free agents. And Cleveland's not in a much better position. I'm just saying it's not like this. This is not. I mean, there have been guys that have went to Cincinnati and visited the facilities and said, okay, this is the only team that's offering me a contract. It's time for me to retire. That's a legitimate story from multiple people. So that's a realistic issue. But you could get a guy like Connor Williams, who's a middle of the road, above average, very young. This is a guy who played offensive tackle at Texas and was very good, all-American level, right? Started at guard for the Cowboys, who's conference champion, has a couple deficiencies. Like he's not strong because that's, he's a little bit skinnier, but that's a guy that can plug and play and immediately elevate this offensive line, right? That's a guy that, because Quentin Spain's gone, right? Quentin Spain's a free agent.
He's an unrestricted free agent, and I don't think they'll re-sign him.
No, because he's not good. So let's say that's one guard right there. Then you got Trey. I don't think Trey Hopkins is very good, but whatever.
So let's say the only thing, and I think I might have mentioned this, but I think if you just look at his games after week 10 this year, he was like the 7th ranked center in the league. So I don't know what happened. I have no insight as to why he played much better in the second half of the year than the first, and I don't know if that's sustainable either. So. That was when I say at least 3. That's me thinking that Trey Hopkins is good enough to stick around.
See, so I was thinking when you said 3. When you were looking at offensive linemen that could stick around, I was thinking Hakeem Adeniji. That's a guy who fell in the draft because he's not refined, but he has all the athletic traits to be a very good offensive lineman. This is a guy that basically blew up in his pre-draft workouts coming from Kansas. I had him as a much higher draft pick than where the Bengals got him in the 6th round, and he did not play pathetic this year. He was not the weak.
He played a lot.
He was not the weak.
No, so
he started a lot. He started a lot.
He did. He started the Super Bowl. And so him and Jackson Carman are both guys that can play guard, right? But they're young, and Joe Burrow doesn't have time for these young developmental offensive line prospects. We need guys that can step in and protect him right away. And maybe next year, Adeniji and Carman, those are guys that are going to be able to do that after another year. And I don't know, but you definitely have to address a couple of positions on the offensive line.
So here's the difference between Adeniji and Carman. Jackson Carman was not that good at Clemson. Okay, he got beat.
He played tackle too.
A lot. He got beat a lot. Okay, great. And I understand that, but it's, everybody always thinks, we'll take an average college offensive tackle and make him a guard and he'll be good. That rarely works. That very, very rarely works. Jackson Carman, he doesn't have the foot speed and he gets beat a lot. Maybe that'll change. They drafted him very high. What was it, the 3rd round?
Second.
They drafted him in the 2nd round. So maybe they see something I don't. Adeniji didn't get beat in college. And if he did, it was by someone who was very, very technical. But he never no one ever ran by him, or no one ever just pushed him around like a little boy. Jackson Carman did. Jackson Carman got pushed around and he got beat by speed a lot. Right? Adeniji didn't. So Adeniji, his athletic profile, I think he's there. Right? It's just it's just making him technically right. And honestly, he might already be there. I haven't watched enough of his film to even know what his progression has been. But I do know at Kansas, he checks all of the boxes needed to be an NFL offensive, very, very solid NFL offensive line. And that I think that he's closer to the precipice than what you're going to see with Carman. And then you're drafting 31, so you're not going to get a top flight tackle, right? Unless you're taking, I saw, there's some various mocks where they got them taking the offensive tackle from Central Michigan. Oh my gosh, his name escapes me. But that's a guy who was a tight end and gained 50 pounds, and they moved him out to offensive tackle, a guy that checks a lot of athletic boxes. But this is a guy coming from the MAC. You saw him get beat by bigger schools because he plays too high, a lot, which isn't a big deal. If you're if you're the Rams, or if you're the Browns, or someone who can kind of sit on it, who's not really there yet, you can draft a guy like that and sit him on the bench. But like you said, if I'm the Bengals, I would rather draft a guy like Zion Johnson, who's an All-American level guard at Boston College, who's played at an All-American level for 2 years. And before he played at Boston College, he was played an All-American level at Davidson too. So this is a guy who's got loads of starting experience at an ACC All-American level. And that he's a plug-and-play guy that'll start day one for whatever NFL franchise takes him. But again, he's a guard, not a tackle. But that's kind of what I would look at as far as the offseason goes. I don't know if you're going to be able to – it's going to be an uphill battle making this offensive line elite, but you can certainly make it suitable by if you sign a guy like Connor Williams and you draft a guy like Zion Johnson, and maybe Adeniji can bump out the offensive tackle over Isaiah Prince. You might have something there, but that's kind of how I do it.
I saw what are your thoughts on? Let's say there is a left tackle in free agency that is interested to come into Cincinnati. What are your thoughts on moving Jonah Williams to right tackle or bumping him down to guard?
I think that one of the reasons why he was such a good pick, when the Bengals drafted Jonah Williams, I said that was a great pick. And one of the reasons why it's a great pick is because if you have a shitty offensive line, I can't remember who are the other tackles in that draft class. It was him, and then it was like there was a couple guys that were more athletic than him. And Jonah Williams went before those guys, and people were very like, okay, why didn't the Bengals take these guys? But the deal with Jonah Williams is that he does what he does very, very well, and he doesn't get beat, and he's technically there. And he's versatile. He played guard and both offensive tackles at Alabama at a very high level. I would expect him to be the exact same way in the NFL. I think he's a piece you can move around. I think that's part of the allure to him. I think that's one of the reasons why the Bengals draft him, because he's a guy that you can say, okay, well, if we drafted offensive tackle next year, we can move Williams to guard. Oh, hey, we got another guard. That's okay. Williams can play tackle. If it's me, I try to leave him at tackle. He plays very well there. He's very good. He's an upper echelon starter. I think he has the potential to be an all-pro tackle. I like him more than most, so I try and leave it at tackle. But if you're in a position where you can't, you're pigeonholed and you can't get a guy like Teron Armstead, maybe you do get a guy like Teron Armstead, you want to move him to the guard position. Great, whatever. I think he can thrive wherever.
Yeah.
I can't remember who else was in that class.
So Jonah Williams was the first offensive tackle taken in the 2019 draft. Right after him, you had Chris Lindstrom was a guard, and then you had Andre Dillard, Titus Howard.
Yep.
So Andre Gary.
Yes. So Andre Dillard
that was all after.
Yeah, so Andre Dillard, that was kind of the big argument was why they take him over Andre Dillard, because Andre Dillard was a guy that had a very good pre-draft workout. He was the pass blocking expert from Washington State. He's not very refined as a run blocker, but no one ever beats him because he's got such quick feet, yada, yada, yada. Well, Andre Dillard, I think he's still sitting the bench in Philly. Okay. And that's not bashing him. There's a lot of upside there. He's a very good player too. But if you're the Bengals, that's not what they were wanting. They weren't wanting a guy to be, well, maybe he could turn into a great player. At that point, you would rather have a guy like, I don't know. You would rather have John Hanna than Anthony Munoz. That's a pretty bad example because both are played Hall of Fame levels, but you get my drift, right? Everybody knows who Anthony Munoz is, right? Mm-hmm. Not everybody knows who John Hanna was, right? But but that's kind of you would rather have that because he can play now, right? Than wait for the Anthony Munoz to show up 3 years later, and that's what Jonah Williams was. And I thought it was a great pick at the time. I thought it was the right choice.
I agree. I remember texting you because I was so devastated that they didn't pick Dwayne Haskins, and you're like, dude, Jonah Williams is a fucking stud. Like, I remember you like being like, dude, don't worry. And I might, he's good. Yeah. Let me search through my text message, see if I can find that text.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, so the free agents at offensive tackle are Riley Reif, Teron Armstead, Eric Fisher, and Nate Soldier. So you're probably right. Teron Armstead's probably the big one, right?
So you texted me. This is April 26, 2019. You said
you still have
Jonah Will. I did. Well, I do. You said Jonah Williams is a stud, dude. Great pick. I said I'd be much happier if Haskins wasn't on the board. You said I think Jonah is the better pick, dude. Haskins need time. Williams can be elite now.
There you go, dude. There you go.
You man.
Well, was he elite? No, but he was the most elite.
Let's say you were correct in the Haskins versus Jonah Williams debate. So
he's good. He's always been good. Yeah. And the Bengals I think the Bengals need to kind of go that route again. We'll see if they do, because all the rumors I see that they're looking at these athletic tackles that might take a year or two, but that's the route I would go. Look at Zion Johnson from Boston College. Daniel Fillet.
Honestly, I'm more excited to see what happens in free agency. You're starting to kind of hear some rumblings about guys wanting to play with Joe Burrow. Obviously, Rob Gronkowski came out and had something along those lines, saying, if I'm going to play again, I want it to be for a guy like Joe Burrow. My thought is there's probably other guys around the league that also think similarly. and that are going to want to, regardless, of the situation, they're going to want to actually come and play with Burrow. So I'm hoping something like that actually does happen, and we can get some of these offensive linemen that want to come play for a guy like Burrow, right? And Burrow, he just I think I tweeted something like he was like on, somebody interviewed him after the Super Bowl, and he was saying something like, oh, I thought our offensive line played great. They had a great plan. I thought they were out there playing really, really hard. And I said, this is what Joe Burrow is actually saying is like, listen, please, like if you're a free agent offensive lineman, come play for me at the Bengals. I promise I won't talk shit about you if you suck. That's basically what he was saying.
Burrow, that would be the only way that they can bring in a top flight a free agent like that. That's why I when I'm looking at possible free agents to Cincinnati, I just scroll to the middle of the pack, and I do the same thing with the Browns too. The Browns aren't going to get, their biggest free agent signing is probably going to be Jadeveon Clowney, who was on the team last year, right? It's just you're talking about, oh well, they got all this cap room. Okay, well the owner's got to be willing to pay. You still got the bonus structure. The owners still got to be willing to part with the money, and then you don't have the facilities. Just aren't like other NFL franchises. They're definitely not. They had that's if you're Teron Armstead and you're in your early 20s. Why would you? I don't know. Like Connor Williams, like I said, that's a guy you could probably overpay, still not break the bank. He could come in and start. I'd be more. If it were me, if I was a Bengals fan, I'd be more excited for the draft. And I would hope that a guy like, we talked about Zion Johnson. I'll stop talking about him, but Daniel Falele, everybody will know him as the big ass dude from Minnesota, 6'8", over 320 pounds, just a pure monster, very athletic, slimmed down this past year. You probably remember him demolishing Ohio State, just a mammoth of a man. That's a guy who's going to be right in that range. And that's a guy who can play tackle now. He can play tackle now at a very effective level. And you're talking about a guy that can move the goddamn pile. That's your dude. That's a guy that can play now. That's what I would kind of be looking forward to. But we'll see. Maybe I'm wrong, Joe. And maybe getting this close to a victory, a Lombardi Trophy, may change the owner's mind. Who knows? Those guys got billions and billions of dollars. Who knows? They can resurrect an indoor practice facility tomorrow if he deems it such. You know what I mean?
Dude, you see, there were thousands and thousands of people at Paul Brown Stadium when the Bengals got back from the Super Bowl after they had lost. Like, you could probably go to Cincinnati right now and pass a fucking tax levy to build a new indoor practice facility. I'd unanimously pass. Like, what I'm saying? Right. Like the time is now. Like there's so much excitement around this football team that I think you could get something like that done if you really wanted to. And I think from the free agent side of things, I think, the Bengals have been notoriously known for not spending money in free agency. And it could be a combination of the owner being cheap or not wanting to, or it could be and also paired with the fact that, Cincinnati's just not a desirable place to be. But I think that with Joe Burrow, and obviously the Bengals have shown over the past 2 years that they're willing to spend money in free agency. Look what they did on the defensive side of the ball. They signed Von Miller.
Yes.
Or not Von, but Von Bell, Mike Hilton, Chidobe Awuzie, DJ Reader, Larry Ogunjobi. Like they brought in guys on the defense side of the ball through free agency. I'm hoping they can do something similar.
And they spent up for Ogunjobi for sure. They spent they spent up, but Ogunjobi, out of all those guys you listed, Ogunjobi was the only top flight free agent, right? Those guys were all none of those guys were OBJ.
DJ Reader had to be. We paid him like $90 million.
Let's Google how high if he's the highest paid defensive lineman. I don't like I said, I just don't think he is. But I don't money talk with younger guys, money talks, right? If you make him the highest paid offensive tackle, the dude will come. He won't care if he's playing in a cornfield. You can go get guys like that. But there's going to be some guys that are ring chasing that aren't going to want that. That stuff is a little bit more important to them. The facilities where they're set up, all that good stuff. But you can go pay if the owner is willing to spend it. And you're willing to make Teron Armstead the highest paid offensive tackle, he'll come to Cincinnati. It don't matter.
Yeah.
But I mean, none of those guys. I don't remember DJ Reader having the same allure as Warren Sapp going to the Raiders, or Albert Hainsworth going to the Redskins, or the Titans or whatever. I'm trying to think of big name free agents, but again, I'm a Browns fan, so I'm not really up to snuff on who the highest paid who the big gets on free agency are either. But you know what I mean? Because they struggle too.
Bengals paid him 4 years, $53 million is what DJ Reader got, and for an interior defensive lineman, that's a big contract.
Where does it rank?
Oh gosh,
because he just signed there last year, so he should be. If it's any free agent, top flight free agent is going to be a top 3 or 5 player at his position, right? That's what you're looking at.
Okay. Let me see if I can get there.
Well, I'm.
It's so weird to see the Commanders listed, on some of these things.
I like it. People shit on that name. I think it's kind of cool.
I don't hate it. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He's like the 10th. And so the people, Aaron Donald, Leonard Williams, DeForest Buckner, Chris Jones, Vita Vea, Fletcher Cox, Grady Jarrett, Cameron Hayward. Those are all guys listed above him as far as interior defensive line contracts.
There you go. So, yeah, I mean, that's a lot of money. Don't get me wrong, but it's a lot of money for the Bengals. That's highest paid guy for the Bengals, right?
For sure.
Teron Armstead ain't going to – he's going to be – if you're going to get Teron Armstead, he's going to be a top 3 paid off to tackle. And when's the last time? That's what I'm saying. He's going to be a top 3 paid off to tackle. When's the last time the Bengals had anybody as the top 3 paid free agent that wasn't already there? Terrell Owens, maybe? I don't even know. Terrell Owens is like 40 years old. So I assume that.
What about Dwayne Brown or Eric Fisher? What do you think of those guys?
I like Eric Fisher. Eric Fisher, that's a guy that you're going to get. We'll see what happens. I would be surprised if he left the Colts.
His contract's up.
But I thought he played very well. He gets shit on a lot because he dealt with some injuries, but he plays very good. You said Dwayne Brown or Trenton Brown?
Seahawks. Dwayne Brown for Seattle, but he's old.
Dwayne Brown. Dwayne Brown's good too, though. He's still got some juice left in the tank. He has NFL starts at guard and tackle too. But those are guys that I think are within their realm. Dwayne Brown is a little bit. Both those guys are a little long with a tooth, but the Bengals are there.
Long with the tooth. Look at that, dude.
But if those guys, if you're ring chasing, the Bengals could be a real destination if you're ring chasing. They just got to deal with not having any facilities.
Yeah, for sure.
But that's just a stone throws away from Indianapolis, where Eric Fisher's at.
Yeah, that's true.
You know what I mean?
That's true.
I don't know where Dwayne Brown's from. I think Dwayne Brown's down from the South.
I don't know. There's one thing that to use a term that you used last week that honestly I really like. That one thing that it really chaps my ass from watching the Bengals game is that you're on that in that last drive, 3rd and 1, and you hand the ball off to fucking Samaje Perine. Like, why isn't Joe Mixon in the game at that point? I don't give a fuck about packages or whatever you have. The Super Bowl is on the fucking line. You put 2 minutes left. You put your best 11 players on the football field. Joe Mixon should have been on the football field.
It's weird too. Mixon wasn't playing bad. Mixon had a couple pops.
He was playing great, dude. He had 70 yards on 15 carries. He was rushing for like 4.5 yards a pop, dude.
He had a couple pops that went for 15, 20 yards there. So that was very odd. I don't think Samaje Perine is bad. I agree with you. It's like I always feel the need to defend Zach Taylor because everybody hates him so much. I know you don't.
You're a nice guy. I know you're just a nice guy. No. People give you shit, but you're a nice guy.
What's funny too? I thought that was a terrible hire. I was like, Zach Taylor, that idiot.
I didn't. No. Yeah, I was like, I was unsure because obviously nobody had ever
heard of the
quarterback's coach at the Rams, and I was just like, all right, like I didn't know who else was out there that would have been better. And I'll say this about Zach Taylor: give him credit. He came out and he broke some tendencies, right? He threw the ball 34 times.
Hell yeah.
20 times. They came out slinging, right? And that is really what we talked about last week that we thought they needed to do. So I give him credit for that. One thing people will question his play calling ability. There are times I also question his play calling, but there's one thing that I think can't be denied is that he does seem to have that locker room and that culture pretty strong. Everything you can see from the outside looking in is that those guys love being there, love playing for Zach Taylor. Everybody really likes him, and I think that's a big part of being an NFL coach that people like us often overlook. Yes, how important building the right culture is for how well a team's going to perform.
Yeah, 100%. We touched on that a little bit last week. Culture is a different word than I used last week. Culture is a good term, though. I think a lot of it comes from Zach Taylor's an actual football guy, right? We use that term. That term sometimes gets thrown away. Kevin Stefanski is a football guy too, right? He played at Yale or Brown or wherever the hell he played. But Zach Taylor played at a pretty high level football. He played in the Big Ten. He played at Nebraska. He had a couple shots. Like he wasn't any good either. So this is a guy that kind of thrived on his intelligence, on knowing where to go with the football, and just being a pretty decent thinker and processor. And I think that's a lot of why he does things differently. You look at the analytics and he kind of strays away from that a little bit, but he also, I feel like you'll see him get into grooves where he is doing things that, is by the book, just based off of the feel of the game. I think that's what I'm trying to get at. I think he understands the feel of the game a lot more than people give him credit for, right? And the Samaje Perine run was stupid. That was stupid. Joe Mixon's the dude. He's the horse. But again, I don't know. That is something that I would give Zach Taylor credit for. I don't know what's going on. If he's looking into Joe Mixon's eyes and he sees something weird there, if he sees but I don't know what's going on there. But I think Zach Taylor, that's what makes him a good coach that we're not seeing yet, is that he has that sense with his players. You can call it culture, whatever you want to call it, but I think that they can sense that he's a football dude. He knows what it's like. He's been in the situation, not in the NFL level, but he's a football dude, and he played at a very high level. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. Nebraska, obviously, they were in the Big 12 at the time, so not in the Big 10. But regardless, right? It's high-level Power 5 football that he was able to play. Technicalities. And one thing that I enjoy.
Is he that old?
Yeah. He's like, 36, 38, something like that?
Yeah, you're right. Well, he was the Big 12 Player of the Year in 2006. I didn't even know that.
Yeah, so no, he was a high caliber quarterback in a Power 5 college football program. So, and I think that works really, really well with Burrow, right? Like, so he understands Burrow better than other coaches understand their quarterbacks because he's been there, right? He's played in that situation. Obviously not that level in the NFL, but he's been there at the college level. He's played big games at the college level. I think he listens to Burrow more than maybe other head coaches would listen to their quarterbacks.
Yeah, he was a very, very what success he had at the college level was due to his intelligence. I mean, he went to based on his Wikipedia page, I forgot he was at Wake Forest first and sat the bench and transferred to Nebraska. All right, so this is a guy that he just I feel like he was a pretty smart football player, and that's probably transitioned into him being a pretty smart coach. And when he goes against the grain of analytics, some people might say it's stupid, but he's winning games, so maybe he sees something that we don't, and it's from his experience playing. I don't know. I just know that I've called him an idiot for 3 weeks in a row, and he coached pretty good. He coached a better game than Sean McVay. I mean, right?
Yeah. I can't believe how much Sean and like you made all these points earlier, but like Sean McVay, like he wouldn't abandon that run game, dude. Like no matter how little they got out of it,
it was strange.
You got to think too is like, all right, like you got OBJ's hurt, Robert Woods obviously hadn't played.
Dude, come on, man.
He was out. Like that's all great points, right? Those are all great points.
He was getting like 2 yards a carry, bro.
I know,
it
but
was
still,
bad,
like who
was
throwing?
bad.
Yeah. It was.
I don't know when he threw the ball, other than Matthew Stafford throwing a pit. I mean, Bryson Hopkins didn't have a bad game for his first game.
Yeah.
It was pretty solid. You know what I mean? Like that was just he was refusing to stop running the ball. And it was like, dude, it ain't working, bro. It ain't working. I don't know why either. Very strange.
Yeah. Well, what could have been as a Bengals fan, I must say, it's going to be one that for me it's a bummer for a while. But honestly, like this is something I've been thinking about. Like the every year for 31 teams ends in heartbreak, right? And for me, like this has been I'm just so kind of grateful that ours ended in February and then rather than December like it usually does. So these past 4 or 5 weeks have been just like an incredible experience as a Bengals fan. Just watching this team and being a part of it, and I had a lot of fun. And I know at some point in time I'll look back and be like, man, that was a really great run. They did overachieve, right? I don't think anybody can disagree with you when you say that. But it was just a lot of fun to be a Bengals fan these past month and a half.
Well, and I think it adds to the fun and the excitement because they're young. It's not a team that's pieced together. It's not like, and I love Carson Palmer. I know Bengals fans shit on him because of the things he says, but Carson Palmer was great. Carson Palmer was treated unfairly by the ownership, and there's a lot of things that we didn't get to see. And I'm never going to disparage Carson Palmer because that dude's a bad man. But towards the end there, when he was staring down when he was getting a little long in the tooth, along with Ocho Cinco, when they were going to the playoffs, it was a little disheartening because it was like, well, this could have been the last time. And it was. Eventually it was, right? They're even with, but this.
With Andy Dalton,
Burrow,
AJ, like.
That was a little different, too, because those guys went to the playoffs so early and so young. I feel like you probably could have had the same feeling a little bit. But the Bengals, with Joe Burrow being just 25 years old, Jamar Chase being a rookie, and there's a lot of things here. There's a lot of things here that could lead to them being, I don't want to use the word dynasty, but we could say AFC North dynasty. I mean, if you look at their roster compared to everybody else, and if they get the offensive line patched up, dude, I don't think there's any stopping them. I mean, it's a big ask. But if they can do it, I don't know who can. I don't know.
Yeah, you're right. Like you talked about earlier, like that's the offensive line is a singular problem that the Bengals need to solve. A lot of teams have multiple problems they've got to address this offseason, and it seems like the Bengals have one major concern, one major thing that they've got to really look at. But yeah, so I think what I'm hearing you say is that you think Joe Burrow's for sure going back to the Super Bowl, right?
If you asked me who was more likely, Joe Burrow or Matthew Stafford, I'd probably bet on Joe Burrow, to be honest with you.
I would too. I think, look, you what I will disagree with you is you say, oh, for sure the Bengals will be back. I will say you can't say that. You can't say that for sure. But what I think you can say is that the Bengals are going to be contenders and they're going to be good for a few years, right?
Yeah, but again, that's what your expectation is. I think that is a safe expectation, right? Is that you should expect him to be good year in and year out until Joe Burrow's gone, right? Yeah. But I said the same thing about the Ravens 2 years ago, and the Ravens were not good this year. Why? Because Lamar Jackson got hurt.
Did you see Marquise Brown is going to retire from the NFL and become a content creator?
Shut up! Is he really?
Swear to God. I just saw it on Twitter.
I'm gonna Google
today. I saw that.
Hollywood Brown,
Google it right now,
dude. He's younger than Burrow, isn't he?
He's young. Well, Oklahoma, right?
Yeah. Dude.
Breaking this is from CJ Golson at CJ Golson can now confidently confirm the earlier report by at @band_Drew. Ravens wide receiver Marquise Brown is expected to step away from football and further pursue a streaming and content creating career. My source cites further health and higher earning potential as main factors.
Shut up. I don't see that.
Isn't that wild?
I don't see that from anybody reputable.
It might. Yeah. I don't know.
We'll see.
I haven't seen. I actually saw that as I was like rocking my daughter to sleep. So, just recently I saw that.
See, that's another team where 2 years ago in a very similar position as the Bengals, when you look at them, you say, man, if they could just get some wide receivers, that team would be great. And they can't solve the issue, dude. They drafted Marquise Brown, who's always hurt. They drafted Rashard Bateman, who was hurt immediately. You know what I mean? Like, they just can't catch a break. Mark Andrews, who's been the bright spot, but, there's only so much one man can do. So it's kind of nothing's a guarantee in the NFL. And that's what makes it great, but also frustrating, right?
Yep. Well, we wrapped a bow up on the 2021 year. I think there's a lot to look forward to for 2022. I think as a podcast, what we'll do the next couple of weeks is maybe do some just like season recaps. We'll do one for the Bengals. Obviously, we've talked a little bit about them already. We'll do one for the Browns. Really dive into them. Talk about the Buckeyes a little bit, and then that'll get us into March. We can really hammer into the NFL draft, which is coming up, shortly in April. So. A lot of cool stuff. Obviously, the year's over, but there's going to be a lot of good stuff for us to talk about here on the podcast.
Yeah, and if anybody wants to comment or tell us what they want to hear too, we would be more than happy to address it. Give us some topics. Yeah, sure. And as a reminder, Adam and I are going to be opening a petition for the next year's Super Bowl halftime show. We talked about it before the show. We want a throwback style of rap rock. So we were thinking Crazy Town, Limp Bizkit, and Papa Roach. Okay, so we'll get that petition. That petition will be ready by next week, and if you want to sign it, please, send us your prayers and signatures.
We're sending that straight to the White House. What is that like? Change.org or something like that.
Yeah, change.org. That's right, dude. Right up there with global warming.
Yeah, that's right. Those are pressing needs for our country.
Honestly, I think all the
I forgot about Crazy Town.
Yeah.
Honestly,
I think
I forgot all about Crazy Town.
You did?
Because I know absolutely did.
Well, DJ AM's dead. I know he was in the Crazy Town, and then left eye, whatever that guy's name. He was in like the MTV Rehab House, Celebrity Rehab House.
Yeah.
Like Vanilla Ice and all them. I don't know, dude. That's a good Google. We could Google that. I don't want to put him on a petition if they're dead.
Yeah, that'd be a tough ask, I think.
Yeah, and they're not gonna if they don't have a hologram for Tupac in this last halftime show, they're not gonna give us a hologram for Crazy Town. I don't want to be unrealistic. That's an unreasonable ask.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
All right. Well, until next week, brother.
All right.
We're out.